We just got our first new glimpses of America's B-21 Raider stealth bomber in months. These pictures, released over the past few days by the US Air Force and Northrop Grumman respectively, are the first images to show us this aircraft from any angle other than directly head-on. We now have gotten to see this platform from both sides, but there are still no images of the back of the B-21 Raider, and there may be very good reason for that. The B-21's unusual W-shaped tail configuration, as well as its heat-dissipating jet engine outlets, are both absolutely vital parts of its stealth profile, both against radar and infrared or heat detection. And by keeping these elements under wraps, the Air Force may be trying to maintain a technological advantage over adversaries who are trying to design their own stealth bombers, like China's H-20 and Russia's PAC-DA, or who are anxiously trying to develop new detection and targeting methodologies to try to offset the advantage this strategic bomber represents. Now, we honestly still have more questions than answers about this new bomber program, because despite being unveiled to the public last December and being a program of record, Northrop Grumman and the Air Force have put on a clinic in secrecy, not allowing very many details at all to find their way to the public. In fact, at this point, we still don't even know if the B-21 is powered by 2 turbofan engines or 4. That's how little we know. But we did learn a few very interesting tidbits by looking at these images. First and foremost, we got our clearest look yet at the very unusual windows or windscreens in this aircraft. And based on their unusual shape and positioning around the cockpit, it seems as though these windows are basically designed just to support mid-flight refueling and checking left and right while taxiing on the runway. Beyond that, visibility will be very limited from inside this cockpit, meaning the pilots flying it will be operating mostly on instrumentation. It's also very interesting to look at where the ejection panels are on the roof of the cockpit, which suggests that the B-21's cockpit is probably pretty tight, but fairly tall. Now, one of the most glaring differences between the B-21 Raider and the B-2 Spirit are its jet engine inlets. On the B-2, those inlets stick up out of the fuselage of the aircraft to gulp air into its engines. But in the B-21, they are completely recessed, which will dramatically improve this platform's stealth profile, and that's really saying something, because the B-2 Spirit is still recognized as one of, if not the, stealthiest aircraft ever to fly. One of these images shows the aircraft inside Northrop Grumman's hangar at the Plant 42 Palmdale facility, which is a very famous and secretive facility. In fact, it was at this same location, though from a different hangar, that the B-2 was first unveiled as well. The other pictures, however, show this aircraft out on the flight line from 2 different angles. And based on what we've been able to ascertain, these pictures were taken on July 31st. In other words, just days after Northrop Grumman announced that they had successfully powered up the engines on their first flight test ready B-21 that's expected to take flight later this year. Now, we know for a fact that at this point, Northrop Grumman has at least 6 B-21 Raiders at some stage of production. And Air Force Secretary Frank Kendall says that he expects this aircraft to make its debut flight before the end of 2023, but he was quick to qualify that this is a program in development, and you never know what kind of challenges may surface. Now, altogether, the Air Force intends to buy at least 100 of these optionally manned bombers. In other words, these aircraft are designed to operate with or without a crew on board. And Northrop claims that the stealth delivered by this design is at least 1 or maybe 2 generations ahead of the B-2 Spirit, though what exactly that means is up to some interpretation. We know for a fact that it has significantly improved radar-absorbent material, said to not only absorb more electromagnetic energy or radar waves, but is also supposed to be significantly more resilient to friction and bad weather. America's 19 B-2 Spirits currently have to be housed in climate-controlled hangars because of their sensitive radar-absorbent skin. But that won't be the case for the Raider. You'll be able to park these bad boys right on the flight line without worrying about the sun damaging their radar-absorbent properties. Now, despite all the secrecy, one thing we do know pretty well at this point is that the B-21 effort has been progressing more or less on schedule, and on budget, which is practically a miracle when it comes to stealth aircraft development. Of course, whether or not it'll stay on time and on budget will depend very much on how its first test flights progress. But if all goes according to plan, these bombers could start entering service right around the end of this decade.